For the movie 1968, I wanted to know like what inspired you guys to make it, write it.
Well, I've always been really inspired by the 1960s. Yeah, I guess that era and just sort of the idealism of that era. And what I wanted to do with this story was sort of contrast, I guess, two different perspectives that that era sort of represented, and I think also kind of the left in general represents, which is, I guess, primarily sort of the more theoretical, sort of academic, very, you could argue, kind of privileged side on the one hand, and then on the other side, this sort of more on the ground, practical, real side that the Black Panther in the film Jim represents. So, yeah.
So you have a film, you make it. Did you have a larger vision, or was it just this is the film I'm making, and I'm hoping that it'll get me somewhere, quote unquote?
Yeah, I guess I'll just say really quickly, just to add on to that, for me as a filmmaker, I think I always really try to instigate conversations and discussions and, say something provocative or at least something that, could, maybe get you to think about something a way you wouldn't think about it before. So that's what I always sort of try to do in my work, I guess.
Similar thing for me, like I grew up acting, wanted to be an actor, same sort of thing. And I started making films because I was sick and tired of waiting to go to auditions to create and to act. And to sort of like answer the question that kind of came up earlier, when Calyx came to me with a script, I thought it was really powerful, and I related to it because I had a friend whose best friend committed suicide a while ago. But essentially, I was trying to be there for them, and I was trying to be present with them and things like that. But I had my own ideas of how to help them and how to support them. But I had to realize that like my ideas of how to be there for them and what I thought was best for them wasn't. And so with 1968 and with William's character is kind of that same idea of like, because of his privilege and because of his background, like he wants to help, and that eagerness to help is special. But there's also something that people that want to help, like, it's got to be patient, and you got to learn, and you got to understand what's really going on. Listen, yeah.
What is your passion in your work?
My passion with 1968 essentially was like, originally the script just started in the warehouse, and I really, really wanted to like put people in that century and in that chaos, so that when they're having that conversation and there's all this ruckus, you feel like you're there. So my passion at 68 was definitely to transport, people who are watching it there.
Yeah, well, I guess I interpreted that question as sort of more like my work in general. But so I guess I'll say for myself that, I really believe in storytelling. I believe in the power of storytelling and how it can create empathy, how you can see yourself in the quote unquote other, which is a silly concept, but I think narrative can erase that idea. I think even of like the other, and can just have you seeing a person as an individual, So I think narrative has that power, and I really am a big believer in that. So that's what I always sort of tried to do in my work, I guess. Yeah.
I wanted to compliment you. Some of your like medium shots were so beautifully lit. I was like, oh.
My question's kind of about birthing the baby, so to speak. So I'm a filmmaker, so I'm part of the Being Black in Canada program. One thing I experienced was getting my vision out was one of the hardest things, especially when it came to the producer and the story editor. So my question is, how close did you guys come to what you had in your head? What you had in your head, and what was it like, trying to translate what you had versus what the production wanted or what was allotted by the budget or whatever. So how close did you come to your original idea?
It's interesting because this is sort of like I was the director of Calyx's script, so it's kind of like, I mean, we've been talking about this like throughout the process, that like if Calyx directed it, you've clearly said like you would do it, you've done it differently, essentially. Yeah. But I guess like a little 2 cents that I would throw in there with that is that like I like the whole idea with the production and the sort of like money that goes into it and the sort of that like box you have to work within. I mean, like trying to convince a bunch of students to do a riot, you know, for a short film was a little difficult. But it's just like finding what needed to be communicated in order for it to happen. Because obviously you would want to have like a really cool, like big sequence. But if you can just kind of like, almost kind of like trick people's imaginations to put them there for a moment, I think you can do a lot with small amounts of budgets.
Well, yeah, I guess I'll say, speaking about this, first of all, so for 1968, I was the writer and producer on it, so I did both of those jobs, and it was interesting because, well, first of all, like we said, you know, I felt I almost had to kind of take my vision from a directorial sense, just totally out of the question very early on, and hand it over to Aaron, basically, because, like, if I was directing that movie, it would be shot totally differently, you know, the shots would be different, and that's fine. At a certain point, I had to be like, this is not my, you know, in a directorial context, this is not my film, you know, this is Aaron's. So that was the one side of it. The other thing is that I just approached this project really with the idea of, like, you know, we didn't have a huge budget or anything, right? So I wanted to make sure, yeah, I guess I just wanted to make sure that, like, you know, I set it in one location, you know what I mean, 2 actors. I kept it very simple. I kind of kept a very simple box that we could work in and kind of play in, I guess. And even with the riot scene at the opening, we wanted to make sure we conceived it in such a way that it felt like it was something maybe on the fringes of a riot, you know, because obviously we knew that we had pretty limited resources, and to do a big 1960s, you know, riot sequence, you know, would be like not in our budget at all, basically. So, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's what I have to say.
My question was technical once again. So you mentioned a little bit about the cool rooms you've been in because of your films, but can each of you express what you feel the greatest accomplishment is from making this specific film?
It's just, it's empowering for me that it's kind of telling me, like, you know, you can make the stories you want to make. Yeah, just get out there and do it. So that's good for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little build off of what you're saying there, because so we made this film in the context of our film program at Ryerson University, where we studied in Toronto. And when we kind of started initially making this project, basically we were like given huge resistance from our peers, from sometimes our professors. I would say, well, first of all, there wasn't, I don't think, a single black person in our year, actually. Yeah, and there's a huge problem there. Exactly. No, but absolutely. So yeah, don't get me started. But there was a huge, you know, resistance and a huge fear for us to tell this story. We even heard it through the grapevine that someone said our film was racist, apparently. And so we faced, you know, so much criticism. I think we had this fear when we, you know, showed this at festivals, like, are we going to be run out and, you know, like pitchforks or something? We thought we were doing the work, you know, we thought we were doing, we really tried. And so anyway, to me, my biggest accomplishment and the thing I'm most proud of is this film has played at 3 Black Film Festivals. And, you know, just the reception that we've got from the Black community, really, because, you know, it's not something that I think it wasn't my intention to make like a, you know, Black film or something, you know what I mean? But it, you know, it was just to make a film, you know, like I wasn't going in with that, right? But yeah, like the reception has always been great, and it's always been super positive that I've gotten, you know, from the community and stuff, and yeah, and so I'm super proud of that because I think it proves that we, you know, we did our work. You know what I mean? We listened and we tried our most to be understanding, and yeah. So yeah.